Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach. Well done. This is our holiday of questioning, and so I would like to begin with a question to ask all of you. Now we know according to the Torah that all that Pharaoh built, he built at the hands of our ancestors, the slaves. But my question for you on this holiday of questions is, how did Pharaoh acquire all of the money and supplies to engage in the vast building projects in which he engaged? How did Pharaoh acquire all the money and supplies to engage in the vast building projects in which he and the Egyptian empire engaged? The answer, of course, Pharaoh was involved in a pyramid scheme. If you like the joke, it came from Congregational Past President Steve Margolin. If you don't like it, it was mine originally. This is a holiday in which we can laugh. This Passover, every Passover, is a children's holiday. In fact, the Talmud goes to great lengths to speak about what we should do to get the kids involved in Seder. Passover is a children's holiday. And so just about a week ago at our Seder table, one of our guests was a wonderful little child. And as little kids are wont to do, she loved to play peekaboo. How many of you remember playing peekaboo with a kid? Yeah, there's not a lot more fun than peekaboo with a child. And I'll let you know something I discovered. A sheet of matzah is the perfect size to play peekaboo. Now, why is peekaboo such a wonderful game to play with little kids? Because developmentally, their brains actually think that the moment they can't see you, you disappear. Right? The moment they can't see you, you're no longer there. The moment they can see you again, poof, you're back in their lives. It's an amazing thing, the way the brain develops. Now, as adults, we know that even if someone is not immediately in front of us, they're still there. Whether they're in the room next door, or whether they're across the Atlantic Ocean in Eretz Yisrael, just because we can't see someone, we know that they are still there. That's cognitive development. I was just reading recently a book by Rabbi David Hartman, A Heart with Many Rooms. And Rabbi Hartman speaks about the evolution as well of Jewish theology. And he talks about biblical theology as being almost childlike. Because the way our ancestors in biblical times understood God's presence was that it was entirely there, always. Everything good that happened to us was because God was rewarding us. Everything bad that happened to us was because God was punishing us. Their view of the world and their relationship with God was very childlike. It was immediate. If they didn't feel God's presence, God must not be there. As we evolve into the rabbinic era, theology changes. Our rabbis and the Jewish people in the post-biblical era experienced so much suffering, they could no longer accept the basic biblical theology that if bad things happened, it was because God was punishing us, and if good things happened, it was because God was rewarding us. The rabbis evolve our Jewish theology to say the world works the way the world works. Humans act with free will. The laws of nature exist. The world works the way the world works. But our rabbis taught us the idea of delayed gratification. That is to say, for every mitzvah in which we engage, for every commandment that we fulfill, the reward will come later, in the next world, in heaven and in Olam Haba, in the next world. Delayed gratification. The reward is not immediate. Just because you do a mitzvah now doesn't mean God is going to reward you right now. But that over the years we bank those mitzvot, and so when our time comes to meet our Maker in heaven, then we'll reap the rewards of our mitzvot. There was an evolution in theology, just as from childhood to adulthood, our brains develop over time. Now, as we stand at this Yizkor hour, the analogy is clear. Our rabbis tell us, we believe as Jews fully that there is a heaven, that there is another place where all of our souls will go. May not be till 120. There is a place where all of the souls who've gone before reside. Now, just as with that game of peekaboo, when we're young, we may think if we no longer see a loved one, they're no longer here anymore. As we grow into adulthood, as we suffer loss, we come to feel as if those who are no longer with us in the physical realm can very much connect to us in the spiritual one. There is a link between here and heaven. Now, I've had the conversation over my many years in the rabbinate of various people who feel as if their loved ones who've gone to the next world are speaking to them, are communicating them. There are strange occurrences that help us to think that maybe those in the next world are speaking to us. Perhaps it's a random phone call where the word mother, mom, appears on the cell phone. Perhaps it's a butterfly at just the right time. Perhaps it is looking over after a difficult moment and seeing the glass half full. Now I'll ask you, by a show of hands, I'll ask you to make yourselves a little vulnerable here. How many of you have felt like someone was trying to communicate to you from the next world to this one? How many of you have sensed or felt that presence? To my knowledge, the Bible speaks of only one moment when that happens. Our rabbis speak of very little. But over the course of rabbinic discussions, as our people develop more and more, you hear this idea that people in the next world can speak to us, can communicate to us, can make themselves known. While our rabbis are a little bit unsure whether those in the next world can speak to us in this world, what they are sure of is that what we do in this world can impact those in the next world. The Yizkor prayer service developed over 2,000 years ago for Yom Kippur. It's founded on that idea. Because the traditional words of Yizkor say, God, please remember the soul of our beloved mother or father or sibling, spouse, or God forbid, child. And I pledge in their memory to engage in a mitzvah. Usually it's an act of charity. The traditional text of Yizkor says, I pledge in their memory after the holiday is over to engage in an act of charity and thereby elevate the souls of our loved ones even higher among the rungs of heaven. Our rabbis are very clear that when we do a mitzvah in memory of someone, not only do we get credit, as it were, for fulfilling that mitzvah, but the person in the next world whom we're remembering, they're elevated even higher among the rungs of heaven. So as we approach this Yizkor hour, as we recite the Yizkor prayers, I invite you now to take a moment. What is one mitzvah in which you can engage after this holiday is over to help elevate the souls of your loved ones to an even higher plane? Perhaps it's an act of tzedakah, of charity to your congregational family. Perhaps it's attending an additional minyan. Perhaps it's something else. What is one act so that when you say Yizkor, you pledge to live a life of even greater righteousness so that you should benefit, but so that those in the next world might benefit as well? At this Yizkor hour, may we be inspired to deeper, holier lives. Excuse me, I'm getting choked up. That we might be elevated. That the souls of our loved ones might be elevated as well. Ken Yi Ratzon, may this be God's will. And let us say, Amen. There are signs everywhere. Our God and God of all generations, author of all life, our lives are in your hand. We are but sojourners upon this earth. We recognize that the same fate awaits us all, whether we are simple or wise, rich or poor, great or small. Death levels all distinctions. We are all equal in death. The memories of those who are gone from us should stir us to better living, to kind words, to just and noble deeds and lofty ideals, so that when the time comes for others to remember us, we may have left the world better than we found it. Thus shall life become a song to immortality. Thus shall life be master over death. As we dedicate these memorial plaques now, we recall the prayer of Rabbi Morris Adler of blessed memory. We thank thee, O God of life and love, for the resurrecting gift of memory, which endows thy children fashioned in thine image with the godlike sovereign power to give immortality through love. Blessed be thou, O God, who enables thy children to remember. When you hear the name of your loved one, if you would please rise, as we dedicate now the memorial plaques for Benjamin Harold Frank, Margaret Sloman Frank, Jean Goldman, Florence Sandweiss Good, Lawrence Portnoy, Elvin B. Lizelle, Shirley E. Lizelle, Bran Marwell, Dr. Clarence Salzberg, and Rachel Siegel. Just as these individuals gave lives to their children, along with the tools to find the meaning that life holds, so too will we look upon these names and be reminded that life is a precious gift and that there is much meaning in life for those who will to see it. It is not death, but rather life that claim our thoughts. And so now, in the presence of the extended families of Benjamin Frank, Margaret Frank, Jean Goldman, Florence Good, Lawrence Portnoy, Elvin Lizelle, Shirley Lizelle, Bran Marwell, Clarence Salzberg, and Rachel Siegel, we consecrate their memorial plaques before you, God, source of all life, and the abiding faith that though death is inevitable, the memories of our loved ones will endure. May their names always be remembered for a blessing, and may they rest now and always in peace. Amen. You may be seated as we turn to our Yizkor booklets, page 2.
I shall not want. Amen. Page 3. Some of us recall parents who watched over us, nursed us, guided us, and sacrificed for us. Some of us lovingly call to mind a wife, husband, or partner with whom we were truly united. In our hopes and our pains, in our failures and our achievements, in our joys and our sorrows. Some of us remember brothers and sisters who grew up together with us, sharing in the play of childhood, in the youthful adventure of discovering life's possibilities, bound to us by a heritage of family tradition and by years of togetherness and love. Some of us call to mind children, entrusted to us too briefly, to whom we gave our loving care and from whom we received a trust that enriched our lives. So many of us recall beloved relatives and friends whose affection and devotion enhanced our lives, and whose visible presence will never return to cheer, encourage, or support us. Though they are gone, we are grateful for the blessings they brought to our lives. We are sustained and comforted by the thought that their presence in our lives remains an enduring blessing that we can bequeath to others. We can show our devotion to them by our devotion to those ideas that they cherished. O God of love, make us worthy of the love we have received by teaching us to love you with all our heart and with all our soul and with all our might, and to spread the light of your divine love on all those whose lives touch ours. Give us strength to live faithfully, for we are cheered by our confidence that you will not permit our lives to be wasted, but will bring all our worthy strivings to fulfillment. We turn to page 5 for Shiviti.
Page 81. The words of Rabbi Groner. Dear God, we come before you as individuals created in your image and as a congregation in Israel to thank you for your blessings. We're grateful for inspiring moments. We ask not to be relieved of our burdens, but to be fortified to bear them. We ask not for a spontaneous solution to our problems, but rather for the guidance to meet them with firmness and understanding. We ask not for an escape from the difficult choices we make, but rather for insight and courage to choose wisely and bravely. It seems to some of us that we have lost you. Dare we commend ourselves to you, we who've been given so much? We can lay no compelling claim to added blessings, yet we must. You know how frail we are, how uncertain is our life. Our very existence is in your hands. Another year and we grow older along with it. Life becomes more precious as we sense time's rapid passing. If only we could grow in wisdom as we grow in years. Your prophet declared, seek the Lord where he can be found. Where shall we find you? And where shall we not find you? Some of us have known gladness and fulfillment. Others have known sorrow and disappointment. Some of our lives have been touched by moments of high ecstasy, and some have been seared by unspeakable tragedy. You were ever with us. You sustained us. You uplifted us. If only we could have opened our eyes. Link our names with prophets and sages and saints who labor to preserve your teaching. Enable us to continue their sacred work. Unroll our days as a scroll and use our lives as holy parchment in which to inscribe eternal truths. Help us to make our page meaningful and our script sincere, an acceptable offering to you. Enable us to encounter you in the sacred legacy of our tradition. Enable us to love you with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our might. Come closer to us and remain in our midst. We do not want to fail you, but God, do not fail us. You are our loving Father. We are humbly and devoutly your children, and let us say, Amen. Page 6. We'll invite the congregation to rise now, please. As our ark is open, our Sifrei Torah are removed. We turn to pages 8 through 12 in our Yizkor booklets as we remember that seeing is believing, but sometimes believing is seeing. Pages 8 through 12. May God remember the souls of all of our parents, spouses, siblings, and children whom we remember today. May God remember the souls of our martyrs, of the 6 million, and of the fallen Israelis. May God remember the souls of all of our relatives and friends who have gone to their eternal home. In loving testimony to their lives, may we endeavor to perpetuate ideals important to them. Through such deeds and through prayer and memory are their souls bound up in the bond of life. May these moments of meditation strengthen the ties that link us to their memories. May they rest forever in dignity and peace with fullness of joy in the comfort, dear God, of your eternal presence. And let us say together, Amen. We turn now to page 16 as we offer the memorial prayer.
תחת כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע לנשמות כל אלה שהזכרנו היום לברכה שהלכו לעולמם בגן עדן בגן עדן תהי מנוחתם הנע בעל הרחמים הסתירם בסתר כהופך לעולמים וטרור בצרור החיים וטרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם אדוני הוא נחלתם וינוחו בשלום וינוחו בשלום על משכבותיהם בשלום ונאמר אמן.
Exalted and compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, to the souls of our loved ones who have gone to their eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that they find perfect peace in your tender embrace. May their memories endure, inspiring truth and loyalty in our lives. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life. May they rest forever in peace. And let us say, Amen. We offer now the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, page 17. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, v'yalma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayeichon u'b'yomeichon u'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agala u'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam u'me'olmai. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudisha b'richu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Damiran le'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mroma. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May God grant comfort to the bereaved among us, and may God bless us all with peace. Amen.